This is Harry Lipsea here on the 80s at 8. One of my favorite top parts of our show is when we can bring artists from the 1980s, and today we have a big one. R&B legend, three top tens, 10 hits on the top 40, three number ones on the R&B chart in the 80s. Also had a number one dance hit, and then had a number one hit in the 90s. We are so lucky to have Miss Karyn White on the show. Thank you so much for joining us today, Karyn.
Oh my God. I am so happy to be here representing the 80s and the 90s, and I'm so excited to be on your show. Thanks for having me.
And this is kind of the first time I can ask this of one of our guests, just because of kind of when you hit. So you hit in the late part of the 80s. I got asked first, what was it like to kind of grow up and be a teenager in the early part of the 80s?
It was such a blessing. It was magical with artists Sting and Madonna and Prince and Michael and Shaka, and the list goes on and on and on. Of course, the legendary icons Diana and Gladys and Luther. And so, I mean, it was just an amazing time. The video era, right? You had to be a performer as well. You just couldn't have, a great voice or have, good music. You had to be the whole package. And I love that era because, that's what those artists represent. Tina Turner, so some of my favorite artists were, really popular during that. And I love the music. It was so unique. Like you had this whole sound, and everyone had their own, sound. They didn't all sound alike. So that was the beautiful part about that era too, was that it was so Peter Gabriel and Madonna. Like I said, it was just different. Shaka, everybody had their own vibe. So I loved it.
And no auto tune and less some of just different techniques for as far as technology. So it was just a completely different era.
Yes, yes, completely different. And but the music was just so good. I loved the writing in that era. It was just a beautiful, some of the just greatest songs, so I remember just being such a happy, just a happy girl and loving growing up in Los Angeles. And it was just an amazing time. And I'm just blessed that I was able to be on a boutique label like Warner Brothers, who had some of my favorite artists, and they understood, about building an international artist audience because I realized that my fan base goes, I have big fan base in South Africa and Europe as well as Japan. So I'm really excited about that as well.
About what age did you kind of know that this is what you wanted to do?
Oh my God. I knew it at 5 years old. I was such a ham. I loved, when we'd have like holiday gatherings, I would say, "Can I perform?" And they'd say, "Okay." In between the commercials, after we're all stuffed from eating Thanksgiving dinner, the commercials would come and I put on my Tina Turner outfit and I would perform, and they were pretty, they were impressed. And it was really cool because if they weren't, they would have been like, "Girl, bye, move," So I was able to keep their attention, and they saw that it was something that just didn't stop. In elementary, I was a promoter. I would gather, I had groups, and I would talk to the PTA, the school. I would be like, "Can I perform?" So I just I really made made myself into this entertainer. I made the paved the way for me to do it.
And then did you kind of get your start in the business as a background singer? Is that correct?
Yes. Oh my God. So yeah, I did. I definitely started out, I was in a band, and then after that I started doing background, and I got paid, and I was taught by, his name is Evan Rogers, and he wrote a lot of the hits he wrote the Jeff Lorber hit Facts of Love. He also, Donny Osmond, Soldier of Love. And he was my mentor. So he also discovered Rihanna.
Wow.
So speaking, so he taught me, he was he's Italian. He sounded like Prince, his falsetto. So he taught me how to do background vocals, and I would go on sessions for the Commodores, and my God, I can't even, it's so many. I had, yeah, just Shanice Wilson, Howard Johnson, Yeah, just a lot. I did a lot of background session work. Johnny Gill, I worked on Bobby's album, Pebbles, so LA and Face kind of started hiring me as their background singer too. So I was able to make a pretty good living while I was waiting for my record to come out.
In that transitions, you mentioned this song, and I would like to introduce the song and get a little info about it as well. Your song, it was under the name Jeff Lorber. Of course, he's a keyboardist and composer, and your voice is on that song. What was it like to hear your voice on the radio for "Facts of Love" for the first time?
Oh my God. I remember I had a Camaro. It was a Jade Camaro, and I just pulled over and I'm screaming, "This is me!" I was by myself. I don't remember being with anyone else. And it's like, it's such a dream come true because, you're in Los Angeles and it's the city of dreams. So people come there with this attitude of, I'm going to make it. I'm going to, make my dreams come true. So it was just an accomplished feeling, and just an overwhelming just gratitude and just gratefulness to God because I just know that, it didn't have to happen, but it did. So it was just a great, great first step in the business.
And was it a fun song to sing?
Oh my God, yeah, it was fun. It was high. It was a very kind of high notes, and effortlessly, my range was really really high back then. So it was fun. It was funky. It was edgy. And I loved, like I said, Evan Rogers and Carl Sturken were the producers along with Jeff Lorber. And it was intimidating because, Jeff Lorber being a jazz fusion artist, he worked with the greats, and we toured along. Dave Koz was in the band with Jeff Lorber. And
Wow.
so, yeah, we just had a great time. I learned so much from the band. So for me, that was such a great training because I started out with this amazing talent and band. So from there, I always knew that my band had to match up to these kind of musicians. So I'm definitely happy about that.
Perfect. Let's hear it. It's from 1986. It was the number 27 hit on the US Billboard Hot 100. It's Facts of Love, and we will be right back with Karyn White as we go through some of her biggest hits from the 1980s. What a song that was really fun to listen to. That was Facts of Love, Jeff Lorber with Karyn White on lead vocals. And the next time you'd be heard on the radio, it was just your name. And I bet that was exciting just to have your name be, just be the featured artist.
Yes. Do, 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 do. Yeah, I love that. And I play that. My band, we always love playing that song because it's such a funky song. And yeah, so thank God for Jeff Lorber. And I'm so thankful that I was able to get my start with Warner Brothers. So once if that record did well enough, Benny Medina at Warner Brothers, and they said, we will sign, you'll get to have your own deal. So I was on the album. I think we released two other singles, and I was able after that to release my solo album, Karyn White, on Warner Brothers.
And what a successful album. I mean, that is crazy to just your first album have three top 10 hits and another number one R&B song. How thrilling was it to have that success right off the bat like that, Karyn?
Woo, my gosh. Now that I look back on it, it's like, it's really unheard of because I'm in the Guinness World Book of Records. I didn't know this. I was the first female artist to have three number one records in a row on their debut album. So I'm like, oh my God, but when you're young, you kind of take that stuff for granted. You think, oh, this is just how it's supposed to be. But as you get older, you realize how tough that was to do. And so I was just so grateful, working with the dynamic duo, LA and Babyface, being at the beginning of their career. And we had such a chemistry, and it was it was a great time. They had Bobby Brown, myself, and I toured with Bobby Brown, and it was an incredible album that
No
people,
way.
yeah, it was an iconic album. So I'm grateful for the relationship, for the music, and I'm grateful for the smash, the women's anthem, Superwoman, that came from that album because it separated me as a dance artist. I was being compared to the Janet Jacksons, Jodie Watley, Vanessa Williams. But when I came out with Superwoman, such an anthem, and it was an international hit that today, all over the world, it's what we call an evergreen. And so I'm so thankful that I was able to record this song at such a young age, because I really can't say I knew what a superwoman was, because I really was only 23 years old, 22. But now when I sing the song, it means so much more to me, and I know what it means to say I ain't your superwoman.
I love it. I'll tell you what, if I could go back, I was actually born in '88, but if I could go back as an adult and go to a Bobby Brown and Karyn White concert, oh my gosh, what would that be like?
Woo! It was fire. I'm just going to say it like that. It was, I mean, we both were at the height, of our careers. And I came out with a band, very Tina Turner / Princess Michael. Then same thing with Bobby. Bobby came out. He's fire. He's electric all over the stage. So people, it was like an entertainer's show. I mean, we had the male and the female, the king and the queen of New Jack.
That's amazing. And I was actually going to bring that up because I had read a Rolling Stone article or something like that that called you the queen of New Jack Swing. And I just think that's so awesome because I've started to really fall in love with that style of music. And so to be able to talk to the queen of New Jack Swing, it's an honor.
I'm happy about that. I get to be the queen of something, right? I'm like, it's such a era. It's so crazy when you're living it. You don't really know that this is New Jack. This is going to be, defined in history 30 years later. So it's so cool to have that catalog, that legacy. And man, I sure do hope that me and Bobby Brown get to do it again. It'll be fun.
That is awesome. Let's play two of your first singles off of that album, off the self-titled album, The Way You Love Me, Superwoman. Anything you want to talk about with The Way You Love Me?
Oh my God, yes. I love that. I love that. I probably love that. It's probably my favorite video. My first video, it was the song was bubbly, it was fun. If I could compare it, it makes me feel like Natalie Cole's This Will Be. It was, it had the jazz. When I think about your love and you're like good it can be. It had the timbales. It was sexy. It was fun, and it was a great video. It was a great first release for me because we didn't come out with a ballad because I'm such I love up tempos, and I wouldn't want to be typecast as just a solo artist that sings mainly ballads. So it was the perfect. We came out in the summer, end of the summer, so it was the perfect gold single. It introduced me to the world, and I love it. And I'm so grateful for that time and that music and the songwriters and producers, L.A. Reid and Babyface.
Excellent. Let's hear both those songs. Huge smash, top 10 hits. Here it is, The Way You Love Me, Superwoman, straight from 1988. We'll be back with two other huge songs. And again, we're so glad to be joined by Karyn White on the 80s and 80s. How fun is it to listen to these songs? I'll tell you what, I actually introduced my mom to The Way You Love Me the other day. And she was, by the second chorus, she was singing the oh, oh, oh part, man. She was loving it.
Oh, come on. Oh, yeah. That's so great. Yeah, that's what you call timeless, right?
Absolutely. And tell you what, you were talking about Babyface. Let's talk about your duet with Babyface. Number one R&B song, Love Sought. What was it like to make that song, Karyn?
Wow. Okay, this was the last song on the album. And it was really cool because they said LA was like, we're going to do a duet. And I didn't know if I was going to do it with another artist. And so he was like, no. And Face was like, I'm doing it. So I'm like, oh, wonderful. And it was probably the fastest song that we recorded. We had such a great chemistry, I knocked out my part, he knocked out his, and it was just so much passion. And we both, we just have a great chemistry together. And it's probably one of my favorites that I sing because I'm singing in my lower register. I start out in my lower register and then I get up high. And then, of course, we have Babyface with his iconic vocals. So I love that song and I love it.
Absolutely. And then Secret Rendezvous, another top 10 hit on the Billboard Hot 100. And I believe a number one dance hit, correct?
Ooh, yeah. Now that song gets me. That's probably one of my the favorite up tempo, because I'm a big Prince fan, and it has some of that coloring, with the strings. It won't stop, and don't stop. It's just, it has that whole melodic, sensual, sexy, mysterious vocals, and I love it. And I love that when I'm on stage. That's where my band, I really have a good time with that when I'm kicking and I'm doing my Tina Turner and spinning and all kind of stuff. The video was fire. And I love that song. It's got just a high energy.
Oh, fantastic song, both of them. Let's hear it. It's Love Saw It, Karyn White and Babyface, and Secret Rendezvous by Karyn White. And then when we come back, we'll introduce your number one song from the 90s and talk about what you're doing today, and we'll wrap it all up.
All
Thank you so
right.
much, Karyn. Let's hear it. Love Saw It and Secret Rendezvous on the 80s at 8. Secret Rendezvous is such a fun song. Man, that it's so upbeat, and like you said, you can tell your personality is upbeat, so it just matches you.
Yes, that's good. That's what makes hits right there, right? When you the right song with the right artist, right? The right time.
Speaking of right artist, right time, number one hit from you in the 90s, Romantic. What was it like to get on the top of the charts?
Oh man. First of all, it was so just incredible. Who didn't want to work with Jam and Lewis? So
Wow.
I I've just been so blessed. I started out with LA and Face, and on my second album, I was able to work with Jimmy and Terry. And to have a number one pop record out the gate, and the video was Matthew Ralston. It was an iconic video. I loved working with them. I co-wrote this song, so I'm very proud of it. And it was just, magic working with Jam and Lewis, because, that's what they bring. They know how to, bring the melody, the beats, the lyrics, and just make it, just dance. So I was able to have a number one with them, and that never will forget that. That was amazing.
Excellent. Well, and now I want to talk a little bit about you now. You're still performing. You have two or three shows coming up, one in Amsterdam, I believe, and then one in Germany.
Yeah, Amsterdam, Germany, and then I'll be doing the jazz festival in DC. So that'll be really fun, because I'll be reunited with Babyface. He'll be there, and Kim, and it's just a lot of great Jodeci. This is going to be a great time, and I'm excited. I've been going over to South Africa because I have a huge following there. I just left there and did a 20,000 arena headlined over there. So this music is just it's so crazy that music brings us together. So when I'm so excited just to have that kind of catalog and to be able to reach the world with the music. And I left the business for 18 years, you guys. So I got back in it, and I've been grinding, and it's so exciting. I hate it, I love it, but I really love getting back out here and performing, and this is what I get to do, you know, forever. And I'm gonna go out, rock and roll all the way through to the end.
Do you still have that same thrill for performing that you always had?
More.
Love it.
I even, you know what? Because when I stepped away from the business 18 years, come on, that's a lifetime. And so I just appreciate it. And I'm like so thankful that I get to do this. And see, when I was 5 years old, when I wanted to be in the music business, so that's all I knew. So I stepped away from the business. I became a mom, and just pretty much did my real estate investing, and I missed it. And I ran out of excuses on why I wasn't in the business. My daughter went to college, and I got back in it. And I've just been so blessed, and I've been able to, really get in front of my fans again. And I also love doing the small things. I do like the city wineries every year. I'm going to be doing Nashville, Boston,
Wow.
Philadelphia, New York, Atlanta. So you can catch me there too. I love that show because it's an intimate show, and it's an hour and 15 minutes. So I really get to show off this amazing catalog that I have from some of the greatest iconic songwriters in our history.
And I got to ask, how do our listeners and your fans, how do they keep up to date? I'm sure you're on all the social media, your website. Talk a little bit about that.
Yes, I'm definitely a big social media girl. I'm always on IG and Facebook, and I just got on TikTok. So you can follow me at Karyn White Official. Check your girl out. I just did a new fire photo shoot that I'm very excited about. I'm channeling Tina Turner and Lenny Kravitz on this rock kind of photo shoot. So I'm so excited. Follow me. I think I'm 30 in my heart. So you'll get to live vicariously through me.
Absolutely love it. Anything else you want our listeners to know at all, Karyn? We're so blessed to have you on the show. Anything else you want our listeners to know?
Oh, I just want to say I'm just, gratitude, be thankful for it all. And I'm so grateful for this music and that it's touched lives and changed lives. And that's what music should be. And so I just want to tell you, thank you for being a part of my journey. This is my 30th year, 31st. Think I'm celebrating my iconic Karyn White album. And so thank you so much. And let's keep this thing going. Let's keep it going, y'all.
Absolutely. Well, I guess last question for you, and this is going to maybe make you reach a little bit. Have you ever performed in North Dakota? Do you remember?
I don't know. I don't think so. But I probably did it with the Bobby Brown tour. You don't think so? I don't know. We
But
performed everywhere. I don't know. I'm so sorry.
but you know what? You are now, your voice is being broadcast. We got your music playing in North Dakota right now. We're so glad to have you. Thank you.
Yay!
The
Thank you. It's not too late.
the queen of New Jack Swing, Karyn White. We're going to send you off with Romantic. Thank you so much, Karyn.
Oh, thank you so much. Ooh! Baby, baby, baby. Let's go.